Intern Christopher Jacobs. And next to him is our engineer Mo Dennis, St. Croix as well. Across the table, we have Mr. Tafari Nelson. He is a senior engineer project manager on St. Croix. And next to him is Mr. Jamen Descartes, senior engineering project manager, St. Thomas St. John District. And he will also be speaking tonight. Then we have our IT team, Mr. Everton Rush and Mr. Kinsley here behind the screen. Before we begin, I have a few ground rules. We're going to allow the executive director to present, and then we'll ask questions at the end of the presentation. When you ask your questions, please state your name for the record. The meeting is being recorded. Next, we'll speak one at a time. We'll be respectful, and our phones should be on silent or vibrate, please, so that we don't interrupt, especially for those listening remotely. And lastly, before you leave, please make sure you've signed the sign-in sheet. Our presentation tonight is available on our website, viport.com, for those following along remotely. And with all that being said, I turn the mic over now to Executive Director Carlton Dow.
Good evening, and thank you, Munifa, and I want to thank each and every one of you for being here this evening. This is just about our third stop in the series of presentations that we've been moving around the territory with. I want to begin by just saying that what we have discussed thus far, the feedback, we take everything into consideration. This is what we have proposed. This have not been written in stone, and this is going to happen tomorrow. There'll be some changes, some adjustments, especially there was a concern of a January 26th date, but certain things happen along the way, so we kind of push things back. But the fact of the matter is that the Port Authority is that institution that everything, what you eat, what you consume, comes through our ports one way or the other, the airport or the seaport. No one takes a tractor trailer and drive from one end with any commodities and from U.S. This is just a quick snapshot of our facilities, some of which we manage. The meeting agenda, we expect the introduction and overview of the Port Authority mandate and our marine projects and operations. Proposed adjustments to existing VIPA marine fees effective January 1, 2026. The BVI International per passage, ship dues and wharfage, the docking fees, pilotage, Red Hook barge ramp fees, parking rates at the Armand V. Fredericks Marine Terminal, and the proposed new fees effective January 1, cargo overflow and staging fee, Red Hook barge ramp additional passenger fee for non-drivers, paid parking system at Virgin Islands Port Authority's parking lot in Cruise Bay, St. John, and legislation and other activity that affects the marine operations. And once we go through the agenda, we'll open up the floor for questions, answers, comment, etc. The St. Croix, let's go back to the St. Croix seaports. Those are our facilities that we currently operate in St. Croix. Next. St. Thomas Seaports, and again, that's just a visual of what we operate in the St. Thomas area. And the St. John Seaports, that's primarily the three facilities that we have, and some of you probably sitting and saying, well, we're in St. Croix, so why are we having all this discussion? But we operate one port authority. And there's all kind of interconnection as we go. So that's why we want to make sure that people have a full understanding and grip as to the magnitude of what we do. Responsibilities of the Virgin Islands Port Authority. The Virgin Islands Port Authority is an autonomous government agency of the U.S. Virgin Islands responsible for managing, operating, and developing the territory's air and seaports. VIPA's property portfolio includes the U.S. Virgin Islands 2 airports, cargo facilities, ferry terminals, 2 cruise ship docks, and its harbors. Our mandate and mission are to provide safe, efficient and modern transportation infrastructure that supports both the passenger travel and the flow of goods. VIPA is an autonomous self-sustaining agency, therefore the authority does not receive an annual budget allotment from the from the Virgin Islands government. Let me just say that again so we could be clear. Unlike other semi-autonomous agencies in the Virgin Islands, that would be your hospitals, both hospitals, it would be a waste management authority, it would be a WIPA. We are that institution that does not receive on an annual basis a legislative appropriation for our operations. We spend what we make. The revenue that we operate from is VIPA funds its operation primarily via tenant rentals and port user fees. Federal grants are awarded to the Virgin Islands Port Authority primarily from U.S. Department of Transportation, FAA, sometimes the U.S. Coast Guard, etc. Passenger facility charges approved by the FAA are added to airline tickets to be used for airport improvement. From time to time, a legislative allotment, if the legislature have a specific project that they're interested in, they would appropriate money that we could use for that project. Bonds, VIPA floated bonds with a BBB plus bond rating in fiscal year 2014 to fund marine port improvements. The Gallows Bay facility that you see there, that the office and where the cargo move right now up in Gallows Bay, that building was built as a part of the bonds that we floated. We did some, we built the parking, or what we call the transportation facility out in Red Hook, St. Thomas. That's where people would park to go back and forth. And there's other bond projects that we did, which has to be paid back. VIPA's economic importance. Our seaports help support tourism, cruise ships and flights bring most visitors directly fueling the island's tourism-based economy. Trade and commerce. Our ports are the lifeline of our local businesses, facilitating the import of goods, materials, and enabling regional and international commerce. Jobs and revenue. Port activities are the backbone of our economy, creating thousands of jobs and generating government revenue through fees, leases, and taxes. Regional and global connectivity connects the USVI with the wider Caribbean and the United States and the world in general. Funding support, operation, and improvement. Fees collected at our ports are used for operations, VIPA again being a semi-autonomous institution, self-sustaining government agency. Fees charged to use our ports, fund port operations, including the payroll for over 300 plus employees. Maintenance. Fees collected are used to fund the purchase of materials and labor to maintain our marine facilities, buildings, equipment, vehicles, pilot boats, etc. Construction and expansion. Critical infrastructure projects such as dredging and structural repairs are needed to accommodate larger and more modern vessels or to improve operational safety conditions. Economic growth. The fees collected provide revenue for VIPA to execute its mandate effectively and fulfill its mission of connecting the U.S. Virgin Islands to the world by air and sea, fostering economic stability and tourism. Marine capital projects in St. John, Loredan, Elboyne, Senior Dock, that's where you get off in Cruz Bay. The under-deck structural repairs, it's a critical project we have to do up there. You'll see as we go through some of this presentation, you'll be able to see it firsthand. Emergency generator installation for that facility. Those two, well, not the two, the first one is a project that we are dealing with ourselves. The Port Authority have to finance the project. The other project is the generator. We replaced canopy there. We replaced the top coat and the area in which the pedestrians would traverse. And we did, that's the only facility we had on any of our marine property that there were no restrooms. So there are brand new restrooms there. And as we speak, today we just started installing a 30K brand new generator that would power that facility there. Prior to that, there was none. And all of us know what we've been experiencing. So it means that the people working, whether in the ticket booths or what have you, whatever they do in the lighting, would be completely out in that area. Today, we just started a project. We expect the project to be finished sometime next week. And just like I said to the folks last night and in St. John, these are things that we had already planned and we had already started to execute on. So it wasn't like we had a meeting last night, so this generator showed up. We didn't just buy one to start that project. These are things we are planning consistently. The Victor Sewer Marine Facility, commonly known in St. John as the Creek, currently designs structural and repairs of the dock. That's some of what we plan to do there, and future dredging. If you go to St. John, that area that we're talking about, that's where the ambulance boat is stationed. That's where if you're coming from the BVI, you would stop there. In that area where the dock is actually, it have quite a bit of deterioration, and the area there, the area is kind of shallow now. Okay, all kind of debris, whether from storm, from runoff, from boat moving the water and bringing sand in, is very, very shallow. So it's not safe for boats to be able to dock there. The Moorhead Dock and Terminal, that's where the ferries go in, move the cargo back and forth. That dock needs some dredging in the future. That was built several years ago, and that's where the barge is in and out every day. That's the facility that they normally utilizes, moving cars, cargo, what have you. Marine Capital Projects, St. Thomas. Croix Bay Cargo Port. The Croix Bay Cargo Terminal Improvement Project, we expect to start in Q1 of 2026, shortly. Project cost, $21.8 million the Port Authority had received from a grant. $5.4 million is our matching funds. And we calling it, not in a truest sense, but we refer to it as a real public-private partnership. Not because they're here in the room. I've been telling everybody about the working relationship that we enjoy. So in this instance, that $5.4 million you see matching funds, that money has been put up by Crowley and Tropical. Money that for free though, just to be clear. But in order to obtain the grant of $21.8 million, the Port Authority had to come up with that money to match it, the federal matching fund. And gracious enough, we've been, these are people that we deal with, we talk to all the time. We have established relationships, and they were able to put up the matching fund, making us eligible to get this. I tell people all the time, and then that grant in particular, the Port Authority took a couple stab at it, and we were able to get professional assistance from those two entities for submission and whatever lobbying had to be done. But those two entities work very closely and work with us to make that happen. And the reason I go to length, because sometimes we talk in a community of what is people doing or what has happened and so forth. So we proud to say that they are true partners in the truest sense. Ormond V. Fredericks Terminal Red Hook, we expect to do some roof and guttering repair. You go right in now with drizzle and the water running all over the place, and passenger. It's been there for a long time. And all of us, all of you here, I suspect, because you're in the marine business or you know something about the marine business. So once you have anything around our salt air and salt water, it deteriorates and deteriorates sometimes rapidly. So we need to do repairs on the roof out there. And there is a situation when you come from the BVI and you go to CBP, you must stop in Cruz Bay so that you could clear customs. I often tell people you could actually fly from St. Thomas or St. Croix to Miami. The time it would take you sometimes when you have 200 and 300 people on those vessels and you try to clear coming from the BVI, folks miss their flight. There's all kind of challenges. So the staff and I, what we have been working on for some time is developing a customs clearing facility in Red Hook So that vessel leaving the BVI will come straight into Red Hook, but it would not be the closure of Croix Bay. There'll still be operation there because there's a lot goes on there, the day sailors, the charters, etc. The St. Thomas Marine Structural Repairs in design, and these was just but a few of the items. This is everything the Port Authority is doing. This is just a couple of the projects that we are undertaking. Edward Wilmot Blyden Marine Terminal, that's in design. Charles F. Blair Seaplane Terminal, and Austin Bay Monsanto Marine Terminal. I suspect by now the world should know that we're engaged in a partnership along with Royal Caribbean, a company called CTI, which stands for Cruise Terminal International, to do a huge project. Will be in excess about $150+ million, rebuilding the whole area, putting in a new dock, and these kind of things. That's the program. But all in all, so it's dredging to go on down there, a lot of work. But just bear in mind that that's not something that we basically saying that is a part of any fee that we're trying to collect, because this is a project that stands alone, and this is a project with our partners. That's how we'll be financed. That's how this one project will be done. It has nothing to do directly with the fees that we're asking, proposing to collect. Next. Marine capital projects in St. Croix. Again, this is just but a couple of the projects that we're dealing with in St. Croix. The cargo facility matching funds for repair project, we were able to obtain after several years of trying for a grant for this, the container port area in St. Croix, some $22.4 million with a matching fund paid solely by Tropical Shipping. They decided they're going to help us out on this. And the matching for this is about, how much, Eva? It's around $5+ million. Tropical Shipping is doing that in St. Croix. And, I like to take the time to really say to folks, while it's not free, it's a significant help, because that means that's $5 million. In all, it would have been like $10.4 million the Port Authority would have to put out. We have worked out agreements among ourselves as to how we will repay those monies over time. But we really, we really feel good to have partners such as that to help us to do these kind of projects. The Annie E. Abramson Marine Facility, the catwalk, structural repairs design complete, being prepared to go out to bid. That's when you go down to the cruise terminal in Frederiksted, that's where the folks, the captains, the pilots, whoever, they have to traverse, they walk out on this metal platform, and then there's a concrete piling down in the ground. Down in the water. It's been like that for a long time. And so it's decaying, and from a safety standpoint, and the vessels that come in and need to utilize it and so forth, we definitely have to do that project. So just like we said there, that is being prepared to go to bid shortly. The Gallows Bay Marine Project, we expect to, in short order, we would be putting, I think we bid it already, but we somewhere, it's been a while, so that would be a project that would be bid, and at the same time demolishing the warehouses down there. This community have been very vocal about the fuel trucks from time to time. I've gotten the cars, it's riding through sometime, the cargo coming through the tongue and all these kind of things. That's a project that's been talked about for many years here in St. Croix. We said we was going to do this project, and we're there now, where we will take down those old buildings there, we'll clean it up. We'll clean up the entire area, the parking lot area, and that entire property will be prepared for repurpose. There's some dredging we want to do there as well. That's a longer kind of project that we've been talking to with the Army Corps of Engineers and so forth. But we will take that down, clean up the area, and the whole area will be repurposed for economic development for the St. Croix in particular, but the territory overall. I still recall the days I come over to St. Croix and I would see the mini cruise ships back in the day down in that area. And these are some of the things we hope to see again. The Port Authority engaged, and we have always kept for many years a marine consultant on board. So we have marine projects to do. Right away, we have a consultant on board that works with us. That's a bid went out a few years ago. We changed it up, at least send out the bid ever so often. But our consultant of record, we had them do analysis, and these are marine engineers, architects, people that's what they do all over the country. And so we had them come in and do an analysis of all our facilities so that we could put into some form of priority those projects that we have to undertake. And you could see, and those of you that's here, you would be able to take the, a hard copy or get it of our website. But these are the condition of our facilities as we see it, and we would be working in accordance with what is those priority items. The one situation that is noted here in red and says serious, that's the Loredan Boynes Dock in St. John. There is some repair that has to go on underneath the actual surface, the actual pedestrian walkway, the piling, and you'll be able to see in a few minutes firsthand what we're talking about. And that's just a few of the examples that we'll show you. All these facilities definitely need work, straight up. And all these facilities, that's where all of us make our living. And so we can't wait, we can't let them deteriorate any further. We've got to start addressing some of these issues. And it'll show you the various funding source as to how we expect to move with those projects. So you're seeing the second one, the Croix Bay Cargo Port. That's what I referenced before, and you see we show you exactly how it's going to be funded. And you could see quite a bit of the projects is Virgin Port Authority funding. And in this particular situation, you see the two major projects that we want to do that's funded by the entities that I spoke of earlier. So at this point, I'm going to yield and have one of our engineers speak to this. I want this public, and I've been doing that all along. The Port Authority do believe big time in our governing body. I see the chair of our board there, that's Mr. Willard John. So you ain't like what I'm saying tonight, you go to Willard, okay? Anyhow, folks, what the Port Authority have done and what we believe in is making sure that we surround ourselves and we look at people generally, but in this particular case, young people who have that skill set and give them opportunities here. So this is one of our newest senior engineer. He was a Coast Guard Academy graduate. He was all over the United States, all over the world. But I was able to somehow first attack the mother. Most people listen to the mother even up to now. But we were able to convince him that there are opportunities here and to come home. So he came home, and he is currently our senior engineer at the Port Authority. Not only being in the Coast Guard, but he actually is an engineer by degree as well. Mr. Descartes.
Thank you, Director. Evening, everybody. Again, Jamin Descartes, Senior Engineering Project Manager in St. Thomas. So next, we just wanted to highlight a few more of the challenges that we have with our marine facilities and some of the issues that were found with the seaport structural assessment that was completed by our marine consultant. Just to go into a little bit more detail on the assessment, our goal is to triage pretty much our marine facilities and the issues that we found, with the Loredan Boynes Dock being the worst at this time. Something I do want to clarify is, our goal is to get everything to be green, like you saw, satisfactory, but even understand that even the facilities that are in the green still have issues that are starting to develop. It's a constant battle against time with these facilities that are decades of years old, and they're in the coastal marine environment and exposed to the elements that damage rebar, they're damaging the fenders, they're damaging the cleats and the concrete and the asphalt that are in use every day. So this is a constant assessment and repair program that we are working on, starting with the Lower and Boynes dock. So here with the picture, you just kind of see some of the failure that we're experiencing. Concrete spalling on the underside where we have exposed rebar. That's an issue that has to be rectified. We had another angle of it where you just see that the area to work on that is very limited. It's going to take a very skilled contractor to be able to complete that project successfully and keep this pier in service for decades to come. And in some of the worst areas, what our consultant found was that we did need to restrict the loading in a particular area of the waiting area at the ferry dock, which of course is an impact on the traveling public, but something that we had to do until we get these repairs completed as soon as we can. Next slide. This is also part of the same project. There's also two finger piers for ferries at the Lower and Boynes dock, also suffering from similar issues. On the top side, you may not see an issue. You may think, I can come and moor up my boat and everything is totally fine, but we have issues constantly developing on the underside. So we just have one typical example of a piling that is starting to fail that could cause a structural issue for the remainder of the dock itself. And that's something to continue to highlight, is even when we show one picture, like just understand that more or less that is the condition under the entire dock. Next slide. This one is just a picture of what the executive director described earlier at the Erman Victor Fredericks Marine Terminal in Red Hook. We're working on a design for this project as well for renovations, as well as building out a proper customs facility for processing folks traveling to the BVI. Next, near and dear to St. Croix, we did want to show the gantry crane at Container Port. This is a crane that's over 30 years old. It's well beyond its expected service life. And a crane that we're looking to replace here. At a point, they're very expensive. You'll see here the estimated cost is about $7 million. This crane, because it's so old, when it goes down, it's down for a while and it's difficult to get it fixed, right? The manufacturer of this crane, because of how old it is, doesn't make parts regularly for this crane. So any unexpected failure is going to take that much time to restore. And this is the most efficient way to get cargo on and off of these ships. So as soon as this goes down and they have to go to alternative methods, that is instantly slower and instantly is slowing throughput of critical goods to the island of St. Croix. And then similarly in St. Thomas, we also have similar issues with the cranes here in Crown Bay. These are vital, right, to move in cargo to and from the port in an efficient manner. And they're also struggling from the same issue of being old, needing replacement, and being difficult to maintain and keep working on a day-to-day basis. In addition, we do also continue to have structural issues at Crown Bay Cargo Port as well that we are working to rectify through the various projects that we have in design. This is another excerpt of Crown Bay, just a different area of the dock, an area where we have ro-ros that pull in and out, moving cargo, moving vehicles, that not only come to St. Thomas, but also to highlight that the things that come in St. Thomas, they also are going to St. John. So just kind of highlighting that we continue to treat this as one port. We have one marine system that we have to keep in good repair to continue the operations and the daily service to the public that these facilities provide. Next, gonna hand it back to the executive director.
Thanks. I always find myself so impressed with the way in which you operate. And Tafari, where's Tafari? People don't know you? That's Tafari Nelson. He is one of our engineers too, by education, and also he's been running several of these projects in St. Croix, and more just students are going through the whole scheme. That's another engineer that the Port Authority brought home to this territory. And Mr. Jacobs, you could wave too. That's an intern we have with us in engineering. So clearly, our part of what we do and we feel good about is seeking out talented young people from the territory and trying to make sure we could bring them back home. The ferry ports and cruise activity. The creek cruise excursions in the islands, ferries, and cruise ship tenders use the creek in St. John to load and disembark. This multi-purpose facility will need dredging in the near future. Croix Bay, cruise excursions also load and disembark in Croix Bay and connect to the West Indian Company dock. Cruise ship activities requires dredging. The cruise pier in Croix Bay, St. Thomas accommodates the largest cruise ships in the world and plays a crucial role in sustaining the U.S. Virgin Islands tourism sector and economy. However, this facility requires maintenance and dredging. So let's stay there for a minute. I know by now, most people, all of you should have heard of the discussion that the Port Authority had with the cruise ship industry. Make no bones about it, and we understand and we say all the time. When it comes to fees or taxes, nobody really wants to pay. Or if you pay, we want it to remain sometimes where it is. But we, the Port Authority, we traveled to Florida, our board members, and had a direct discussion with the lines. Because the Shatamali Harbor is a major project. And we have to dredge that area so that they could continue to receive ships, and then they could continue to get even bigger ships that come into the territory. And so that discussion was over a $3 issue. And I know all of us should have heard that going on. It's public. But we said to them that we're going to dredge it. We have to dredge it. But each passenger that you bring in here would have to pay this $3 fee. We're back and forth for a minute, but we there now where that's something that we, the Port Authority, will institute. We had discussion, numerous discussion. And the reason I even go there is because I want all of us to understand. Because even in some of the discussion, it don't need to be a me against you and you against this and an island against an island. What it needs to be is understand that all of us, everyone that use our facility, whether cruise ship, cargo vessel, passenger ferry, everyone has to participate in making sure that the facilities could continue to make sure that you could run your business or move about, move your goods and commodities, or when you have to travel, you could do that safely as possible. So we're doing that and up at Shatamali. The other thing, misnomer, I know in some of the discussions and from time to time, we use this for information. The most money the Virgin Islands Port Authority gets in its marine system comes from cruise ships. And I oftentimes tell people that, some people say, man, you know, just like we had a resident reference, we told them that, and you'll see shortly, that last season, St. John, the mini cruise ships, the Ritz-Carlton and all have their own cruise ship now. That was up in St. John. So the mini cruise ships going up to St. John, last year we did like 36 of them in St. John. It was pretty good. This season we expect to do 80 in St. John. One person said, man, why are I bringing all these people here for? And then I said, right next to you is a taxi driver, ask him. And so is these the kind of competing views that people might have. But I also said to folks all the time, whether we like it or not, the fact of the matter is what pays the bills primarily in the U.S. Virgin Islands is the tourism product. I want us to really stop for a minute and recognize and understand the gravity of what that means to the territory. Recently, you had a small naval vessel here in Frederiksted Harbor. We have to be ready and be able to accommodate those things because those very same people came off, they spent money right here in this economy. In St. Thomas, just Tuesday morning, the vessel was there with all the equipment. Over 3,300 military personnel came off the vessel. I mean, it was like the St. Thomas some people would know long ago. Very active, very busy. The beaches, the taxi drivers, the restaurants, even the hotels. Some people fly in their family for those 3 days. They stay in the hotels, whatever they do. So I want us to really start to connect all these things. And all the commodities that come in these places have to be solved with the food, the goods, whatever they use. So when we talk about the product and our marine facilities, it facilitates all these things that we've mentioned. Tafari helped me here. Thank you.
All right, good evening, everyone. As stated before, my name is Tafari Nelson. I am the engineering project manager here in St. Croix. And I'll briefly speak on some of the projects that we have upcoming and some of the issues we're facing in St. Croix. So starting with the Gallows Bay warehouse, as you can see, the condition of the warehouse is not the best. This is actually scheduled to be demolished completely, being that all cargo operations will be relocated to the south shore by the Gordon Finch Molasses Dock, which you'll see later on. Well, we could still stay on Gallows Bay. As part of the structural assessments that was done territory-wide for all marine facilities, this was one of the facilities that did have a poor score. That's because some of the curbing and sheet piling, the structural components does need to be repaired. And that is currently in design as we speak with our marine consultant under an active task order. You can move on. This is the Gordon Finch Molasses Pier, where the cargo operations at Gallows Bay will be relocating to. Tenants are currently in the process of relocating to this location. Once it is completed, we can move forward with the demolition of the facility, of the warehouse specifically, in Gallows Bay. Similarly, there's also some structural issues that needs to be addressed. Not as severe as some of the other marine facilities noted, but still work to be done. And like Jamin said, it's a active work in progress, always going to have to keep with maintenance over and over as the years go by. This is the Wilfred Bumba Alec Transshipment Center, more commonly known as Container Port. That is a warehouse that we have recently completed, approximately 40,000 square feet, 10 bays. Tenants are beginning to move into the facility. And as part of the repair work going on at this facility, we do have a grant, the PIDP grant, the Port Infrastructure Development Grant, which we did get the local matching funds from Tropical Shipping. That's to address the south side, what we refer to as the operational area, the structural components of the dock. And I'll pass it on. And this is just surface level. We have a whole lot of structural related projects, a whole lot of projects throughout our marine facilities in St. Croix that needs to be addressed. This is just we'll be here forever if we continue talking about the projects that we need to do and complete. So,
thanks, Safari. And again, I continue to look at what these young people who elect to come back home is contributing to this territory. And I know you hear me say it time and time again, but the board, our governing body, played a significant role in making the adjustments. Because while we're telling these young people to come home, I think the Port Authority step up and we make sure that we at least try to compensate them decent so that they could come home. Now, I also want to go back to that one that Tafari just spoke about, because so people could kind of digest and have a feel for what we deal with. That grant that we got for what we call the Garden Finch facility, the Port Authority, on 3 occasions, 3 years in a row, we started out ourselves trying to put this grant together to try to get the money from U.S. Department of Transportation for that. We left there, we traveled, we did all kind of stuff. 3 years. The first year, they sent back, told us that, hey, you wasn't selected for different reasons. We took all what they told us why we wasn't selected. And I tell people all the time, nothing wrong in reaching out for help, especially professional help at times. And that's what we did. I asked the board for the permission to go out and speak to somebody, some consultant that actually specializes in putting these type of federal grants together outside of the territory. We had somebody inside, we had one out. We traveled to Florida, met with them, we paid them. I think the first fee that the charges were like $75,000 to do this work for us. They did it. When the grant season went through and everything went on, we get this letter, you know them there, January again. Well, we got a letter from them telling us that, again, we was not successful. However, several items that they had found in the first one, we know was pretty much okay with what we had done. So I have to go back to the board to get authorization again. We already spent $75,000. Went back to them a second time. The folks said, since we had done some of the work before, we have some of it, we'll do this one here for $50,000. Spend another $50,000 to get your second rejection, $75.50. The third time, I went back to the board and said, hey, we really need to try this. Now, most people would probably already give up. Most people would say, nah, and a board might say, hey, Dow, you don't spend 75, you spend 50. Is no, well, then don't do it. But we were able to talk to them and convince them that it worth the try. And we went back for the third time, and we received a phone call telling us that you were successful. And that grant for that project was in the neighborhood about $15+ million. So stop and just for a second. 3 times we went at it. One could have easily said, man, we ain't doing it through our hands. But we know it's a big project, it's an important project. What are we willing to do? So when you look at it in the scheme of things, we spent 75, 50, 25. But we got $15 million. And our partner step up. And now the building, that's how that was put together. But I continue to tell folks that although Tropical might help us or Crowley help us from time to time, those things aren't free. I just want to continue to remind you of that. Existing fees, proposed adjustment to existing fees, the BVI travel. Inter-island passenger ferry service between the BVI and U.S. Virgin Islands is charged per passenger ship dues and wharf for use of our harbor and wharf premises under the control of the Port Authority. These fees were last increased in 2014. The ship dues, and prior to us, the Port Authority changing the fee that we had changed in 2014 was in place for more than 20+ years. More than 20 years, that same fee was in place. We changed that fee, and that was the breakdown. The current fee is $2. We're proposing to go to $3. The wharfage inbound is $3. We're proposing $4. And the wharfage outbound, $3 we're proposing for a total ship dues and wharfage of $11. Now, by contrast, is that note over there, when you live in the British Virgin Islands, you pay $20. We have not started even discuss the environmental fee and the other fees that you pay when you're leaving. But that's the facts. So we are looking to go to $11, and that's the discussion we've been having. And while the British Virgin Islands is at $20. That's the folks that leave either the Blyden Terminal, Red Oak, St. John, what have you, and go back and forth to the BVI. Docking fees at Virgin Islands Port Authority ports. Any vessel except cruise vessels berthing at any Virgin Islands Port Authority owned wharf, dock pier, or bulkhead structure is currently charged $1 per running foot per 24-hour period. VIPA will increase this fee to $2.50 per day. This fee was last increased 8 years ago and is paid by all private and commercial vessels, not paid by cruise lines. And the reason that the cruise lines don't pay that fee is because there's a different tariff established for the cruise industry. And just in case you're wondering, each passenger that comes to the territory by cruise ship pays, if they go up to Waiko, they basically pay the wharfage. By us, we are the port, we collect the port dues. But the fees is $14.40, correct, Eva? 16, huh? 1608. If you go up to Waiko, that's what you pay overall. And the Port Authority is the same fee, 1608, but just remember that a portion of the fee that 1608 comes to the authority if it goes up to Waiko. Just for information purposes, Waiko have a pair inside the port. The Port Authority collects all port dues. Go back, let me see. The docking fees for each 24 hours at our facilities, and that's what I just discussed. So go to the next one. Thanks. The proposed adjustment to existing fees for pilotage. Current pilotage rates have been in effect since October 1st of 2020. The pilotage is paid by vessels over 100 tons, primarily by cargo vessels and any other vessel over the minimum tonnage. Vessels under 100 tons do not pay pilotage. And that's just the whole breakdown there. Mr. Constantine, you come to this.
Hi, good evening all, and thank you, Director. As it says, we propose the increase on January 1st, 2026, where we charge a minimum draft 15 feet. Our current charge for pilotage is $20 a foot, and we propose a $25 per foot increase. Total increase. This is plus the gross tonnage. For most of you who are billed this charge will know what this breakdown is about. But just a quick rundown, vessels between 0 and 19,999 gross ton, with a minimum of $200 you'll pay on the pilotage coming in, etc. To include the increase in the shifting within the harbor from 300 to 400, plus the pilotage gross registered ton, which is a minimum of $100. The harbor use fee per entry is currently at 100. It's proposed to increase to 150, and waiting time for the unreadiness of the vessel after the pilot reports to the vessel will be $200 waiting time. So again, this has been slowly, being want to be increased throughout the territory. Thank you, Director.
Thanks, Mr. Constantine. That's the St. Croix Marine Manager. Proposed adjustments to existing fees, Red Hook Badge Ramp. These fees were established 19 years ago in 2006 and have not been increased since implementation. So if one traveling to St. John right now and you have a small, medium SUV, motorcycles, etc., from 2006, 19 years ago, that fee was $3. It's $3 up to today. We're proposing that fee go to $6. The pickup trucks, vans, large SUVs, personal vans, 19 years ago was $4. Up to today is $4. And that's what we're proposing over $6. The heavy trucks and equipment, that's all those trucks, we see it all the time. The concrete trucks, the tractors, the trailers, everything running across our property that we continue to have to repair. We expect to go from $20 to $30. Other vehicles, commercial vans, the horses, safari taxis, $6 to $10. The containers, 20 feet and less, they are now $20. We're proposing $30. And the containers more than 20 feet, large trucks, trucks with chassis and fuel trucks from $30 to $10. Again, to $40. Again, we want to make sure that folks are, really digest not just the need, but that time period. And in the discussion, we said to the folks, both in St. John and St. Thomas, for whatever the reasons were, and we're not saying anything that there wasn't good reasons, but for whatever the reasons were, the same barges that run back and forth from St. Thomas to St. John, in a 5-year period, they raised their prices twice within a 5-year period. And we're talking about trying to raise our prices now over a 19-year period. The parking facility, proposed parking adjustment to existing fees, that's primarily the current parking fees. Rates have been in effect since July of 2020. And we told them that any special rates previously approved will expire upon the effective date of the new rates. The parking fees that we're proposing, and this is for the Red Hook facility folks in St. Thomas. So will remain the same up to about 4 hours, and then the changes come. This is primarily the same thing that happens at the Cyril E. King Airport, except this monthly parking fee. But like we said to everyone in attendance, this is what we're proposing to do, and that's why we come out to the public and have the discussion. Interestingly, when we were having that meeting in St. John, one lady said, hey, let me ask a question quick because I have to go. I want to get out of here because I have to go. I want to come out of the parking lot. So I asked her, which parking lot? So she said, I came to this meeting, I circled around, there was no parking. And I went into a private parking facility in St. John. And for the few hours that I parked there, I have to pay $20 to leave. So somehow we believe that the Port Authority in of itself should continue what we're doing with all the things and the projects that we have. It cannot happen. So this is the new fee that we're recommending that we do. In St. Thomas, the parking facility, we floated bonds several years ago to build a Red Hook parking facility. Those bonds still have to be paid back. And we wanted to provide some information. This information, if you go on our website, for the most part, we have a board meeting every month. What a badge ramp make, what a parking lot makes, we listed there. So we want to make sure that it's transparent and people could see actually what these facilities have been doing. The Red Hook badge ramp in 2020 was for $463,000. In FY21, 605,000. 22 was 618. FY23 was 599. FY24 was 592. And FY25 was basically 613,000. And it shows you what the Red Hook parking garage has been doing for the authority, which in 2020 started out at some 609,000. 859 in 21, and it goes on. And in FY 25, it's about 1,017,000. And St. John, we have a parking facility down in the area where the badges come in. We refer to that commonly as the gravel lot. We started out at $7,035, and it's now up to $88,000 for FY 25. And that's your combined numbers that we've been making over the years from the parking lots throughout. The figures are subject to change pending the release of the full year financial report. That's why the asterisk is right next to 25. The new fees proposed and cargo overflow staging area in St. John, in particular, we have an overflow area. In St. Croix, we have established an overflow area. Folks are starting to use it now. In St. Thomas, we're still pressing for space, so we are still trying to figure out where that overflow area is going to be. But make no mistake, all are simply, if you don't have no commodities, no construction material, no sand, no gravel, no cement, wherever you might be moving around, your tractor, your trailer, your fuel, or what have you. Because sometimes packed stuff comes in and one don't have no place to readily move it. So that's what this is about. So There are fees for the various things that you may want to store on our property during a given time. Proposed new VIPA marine fees: the barge ramp, the driver and one passenger over 12 will not be charged for the occupant fee. The new fee proposed is $2 per passenger, will be applied at the barge ramp. This fee applies to all passengers except the driver and one passenger over 12. This fee does not apply to passengers under 12 years of age. So what we are proposing is that when the boat goes across, what's been happening or what continues to happen is that boat could, someone could get in a vehicle, 4 or 5 passengers, wherever it could hold, go over to St. John, and those people actually go over just in the vehicle, and there's no fee that the individual must pay on that end. That's been a lively discussion up there. That's, I believe, that if there's one thing that really created a lot of discussion and discourse, had to be that specific thing that we just mentioned. But we'll continue to take all the discussion under advisement and then come up with what we believe to be best. Proposed new parking in Croix Bay. One of the challenges in Croix Bay, we have the open area where the village is kept. We get it on both sides. We get it. Folks have to go to the post office and want to do some transaction in Croix Bay. Currently, that area there, right there where the ambulance boat part was commonly called the creek, vehicles park there all day. People could park there. They park there right now, go to St. Thomas, go wherever. They park there, travel for weeks, go to wherever states, what have you, leave the vehicle there, leave the vehicles there. So you have people in the community, whether seniors, anybody want to do a transaction. The post office is right across the street from this facility. So somebody wants to go to the post office, there's no place for them to actually park. So what we're suggesting is that we'll create a paid parking lot there and give folks up to 30 minutes to do the transaction, or if need be, and then start to establish what those rates might be after the 30 minutes. Transforming our ports to enhance our experience. And we talk about these amendments to be effective January 1, 2026. VIPA aims to generate approximately $5 million through proposed changes to our existing marine fees, as well as introduction of new fees. This revenue will be used to support essential marine operation and projects territory-wide, St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John. There was a concern with at least 2 individuals referenced in our meeting in St. John. Well, on the marine side, if you look at our reports, we basically don't even break even in St. Croix. So for a long time, we lose money on the marine side in St. Croix. But what we continue to do, though, overall, we don't lose money on our marine side. So, and the reason I say this is because we had at least 2 individuals got up in the meeting and says, well, we look at your report, and your report showing that you're losing money in St. Croix. So why we in St. John or St. Thomas must pay? I need to go to St. Croix and get all of this money. And the one thing I continue to say to anyone listening, the Port Authority ain't going to be a part of some divisive discussion. What we are saying is that we run one Port Authority, and we're going to make sure that our revenues that comes into our marine segment support all areas of our marine operation, all. We went to the length to explain to folks why we believe that's the right thing to do. And we know it's the right thing to do. Because the same gantry crane for $7 million, what's in Croix Bay, and take off the container, off the ship, off the vessel, puts it on a tractor eventually to take to St. John. If that crane in Croix Bay can't lift that, that container to put on the vessel, on the truck to drive it to Red Hook and then to go on a barge, everybody suffers. That wouldn't happen in terms of getting the commodities quickly to Red Hook. and then on to Cruz Bay. So it's all an entanglement in terms of what we operate. Everyone is dependent upon the other. Everyone. And so it's vital that we understand and recognize the importance of us understanding the need that the revenues the port have is for the Port Authority. It's not isolated to one district. Where tonight is not an airline discussion. But all of you know, when you're here, you travel back and forth. In St. Thomas, the air cargo, people coming into St. Thomas is around 900,000 passengers. Coming into St. Croix is about 200 or 250 passengers. You don't have to be a road scholar. That's what happens. So if we don't look at the port as one whole entity, you could see the kind of losses that happens on the St. Croix side. We've been able to bridge those gaps, bringing everything as to one institution. This revenue will be used primarily to support essential marine operation and projects territory-wide. The increased funds would help finance critical improvements, ensure routine maintenance of seaport facilities, and cover the rising costs associated with operational and capital expenditures. And so we know it's never easy. We know that people, you're looking at your operational costs and all these things happen. And just like people have said, the operation costs, everything gone up. I'm not getting into what's happening nationally, what the president doing with any tariff, but you go to order something tomorrow from Amazon, that's part of what you have to deal with. And we're simply saying that we come to a place where the authority have major work to do, major repair to do, and we definitely need to increase some of these fees. We want to just touch on two pieces of legislation. This legislation that the legislature, again, in their wisdom, good reasons, they decided that every government employee must be paid no less than $35,000 a year starting October 1. The Port Authority, we prepare ourselves, and we know that come October 1, this is the law. We have already moved forward to execute what the law says. It wasn't something that we decided to do, but that's what the law says, and we will follow through. So this October 1, we have already started a process and will follow what the law says. So that's money that we have to expend for our operation purposes, this time on the personnel side, that we really didn't anticipate would have to do. Next. This is interesting. And I only reference this bill because the sponsor of this bill, the senator, he sent a press release out and he said that, well, the Port Authority is going to punish St. John residents with the fees. And I was a little taken back because when he said we're going to punish St. John residents with these fees. So then rhetorically I ask, well, it's only that the legislature at the time, they had a hearing on this already, but it was held in the committee. So it will resurface again. But interestingly, in this one that tells me, or tell the port, you'll punish St. John, this is what he proposed. The current fee for a 40-foot container coming through the ports, currently, the current fee, $100 for a 40-foot container coming through the ports right now. Bringing a container, it comes through to any of the ports. A 40-footer, you pay $100. And a 50-footer, you pay $20. That's currently the law. The bill seeks to increase the rates as follows. Flat racks up to 39 feet from $50 to $100. Containers and flat racks from 40 feet will be increased from $100 to $200. Containers that measure 45 feet at a new rate of $205. So this pending legislation is before the legislature. The only reason I show that and brought that in our discussion is because whatever happens here, we like Tropical and we like Crowley and we like all of them a lot. But I don't know that with this happening, that they're not going to be some movement for the same residents of St. John or the same residents of the territory provide if this come into law. We're pretty upfront. We tell you this is what we want to do and for what reasons. And they're fine. Any senator can propose anything, and once 8 people say yes, then that's what the law would be. But I'm only saying that while they're telling me, at least this senator, in a press release, man, you're going to punish St. John. I don't know. I don't know what that would be. But that's the facts. USVI cruise ship activity, and when we spoke earlier and tell you the impact that the cruise industry have on the territory. It shows you the numbers. Croix, we projected to receive at Croix 206 ship calls in Croix. In fiscal year 25, we had 178. And just for the record, at the Croix facility, the Port Authority have a long-standing contract with Royal Caribbean. Once Royal Caribbean vessels come in to St. Thomas, they come to Croix. So most of these calls will be Royal Caribbean, but at the same time, we do have from time to time other vessels down there. St. John, we expect in 26 they'll see about 80 cruise calls. Last year was 36. Waiko, they expect to see about 367. It was 277 last fiscal year. And again, you have all this information whether online, so if you want, for any reason, you have a hard copy there, you could look at it. It's rather interesting. And then you see the totals that for St. Thomas and St. Croix as well. St. Croix is interesting though, because cruise ship passengers come into St. Croix for 25 years, paid nothing. Paid nothing for 25 years. And it came a point when the staff and I went to Miami and met with Royal Caribbean and said, look, we were doing a deal, we were doing a relationship and signing off on a deal in St. Thomas. And when I talk about one port, this is a good illustration of what we meant. So while having our discussion about Royal Caribbean and the contract in St. Thomas, we said to them, hey, you have to do better. You have to give us some more calls to St. Croix. We're going to do this deal with you, but at the same time, we need to see improvement in St. Croix and the ship calls. At that time, St. Croix was receiving 40,000, around 40, 50,000 passengers a year. That's what St. Croix was getting then, prior to our deal. We went through, we made an arrangement with them for a gradual increase. And this is what happened. And you could see it. St. Croix, we projected, last year, you had 97 calls. In 24, you had 57. You had 69 in 23. You had 35 calls. 35 calls in 22. Now we're up to 113 calls in St. Croix. This is the passenger count, basically. In Croix, St. Thomas, 750,000 passengers. That's what we're projecting. Previously, we did 759. St. John, we expect 32,000 passengers in St. John. In 25, they had 8,200 passengers in St. John. Waiko, 1.1 million passengers we're expecting, or they're expecting in the territory. In 26, in 25, was 955,000. For a total of 1.9 million in 26 in St. Thomas, and 255,000 in St. Croix. One of the things that we're doing in St. Croix, and we talk about the catwalk and all these things. In order to build a catwalk, and that's when we talk about everybody participating and paying. In order to build a catwalk and these things that we want to do in Frederick State, we have to do a dredging project down there as well. We want to do that dredging project in Frederick State so we could accommodate even larger vessels. It's only a certain class, probably up to about 2,000 and change passengers can come in now. We want to make sure we dredge it to be able to take probably up to 4,000, per person and a vessel coming in to Frederick State. That's what we're trying to do. But in order to do that, we created what we call, you could go to the next one. We created what we call a capital cost recovery in conjunction with Royal Caribbean. Royal Caribbean, again, bring most of the passengers to St. Croix as well. And what that capital recovery cost is additional, has nothing to do with the tariff. But we agreed, Royal and ourselves, that coming to St. Croix, they will add additional $5 to each passenger so that we could do some of these projects. So when I say to the public that everyone must participate in paying for these things we want to do. So Royal Caribbean will be paying additional fee for a period of time to assist with the capital development of and the dredging in Frederiksted. I alluded earlier to you guys about this $3 fee that every cruise line passenger coming to St. Thomas. That $3 fee, that's not charged in St. Croix. This $3 fee here, so every passenger that comes off the cruise ship, and that's the money that we expect to use to do the dredging for the Charlotte Amalie Harbor. I know some of you must have remembered, like I said earlier, the discussion that went back and forth with ourselves, WICO, the cruise line, and so forth, when we made it abundantly clear to all. Everybody must participate in being able to pay, mean the users to pay for this dredging project. We have to do dredging in Croix as well, and all these things, they're in different phases of this dredging package. Is the demolition of Concrine, all of it is intertwined. The Concrine School, demolishing that, doing the dredging, putting some of that spoiled material there, and so forth. And then at the same time, dredging Croix, so that right now, our good friends in Croix, when the big ships come in with the cargo, they are telling us that it's too shallow, it's too, the build-up there, it's not the best condition. They want some dredging there. So, and we, for the cruise ship project that we're getting ready to do, that Croix area too will in fact be dredged. So it's a lot of major projects that we have, and they're all in some form of not just talk, but either in permitting between Army Corps of Engineers, and some is in design, that kind of way. So it's fluid, it is moving, and we expect that possibly, shortly, the public would be hearing where we at with several of those major dredging projects. And like we said earlier, all funds collected from seaport operations are allocated to our maintenance and operation fees. The one thing, just like I spoke to you about the $5 fee that Royal Caribbean pays for the projects in St. Croix, the same thing happens in St. Thomas. That entire Croix Bay development that we've been talking about, that Croix Bay development is being paid, the upland development, the pre-development cost, whether it's design, it's demolition, it's environmental studies, all these things. All of that pre-development cost in Croix Bay is being borne by a $5 fee that every passenger, only Royal Caribbean vessels that come to the territory, pays that. So Carnival Cruise Line, nobody, because that's a special assessed fee for the pre-development for the Croix Bay project I spoke about quite some time ago. At this point, we'll open up for any questions we might have from you, the public.
Good evening. Before we begin the question and answer period here, I'd like to just acknowledge Mrs. Ava Penn. She walked in after I did the introductions, the Director of Financial Affairs, and her finance team at the back, and property management as well. She's also our acting property manager. We have Verna Thomas and Nia Gums. I think that's it, and Naisha Sebastian. And I'd also like to apologize to the people that are on our Zoom chat. Before, I was dealing with the crowd in the room, and we did not get to address any of the questions here. So we'll start with the one question that we received tonight from the Zoom chat. There's a question from Ms. Crystal George. how much bonds were floated for the Red Hook parking lot? If you could recall.
It was one, I don't remember the exact number, but because it was a bundle. When I say a bundle, it was several projects involved in that bond issuance. It was in excess like probably 25, 30 million, because it wasn't for that. Well, just so, let me go direct. The cost of constructing a parking lot was somewhere under $7 million. That's how much we paid to construct the parking lot.
Okay, and then we do have a couple suggestions to increase the parking lot from the half an hour to an hour for free parking, 1 or 2 hours, made by Mrs. Jennifer Simpson and Gail Jackson, okay?
Where is that?
Adjust the parking lot at
Yeah,
the
but
Victor Sewer,
which parking lot, you know?
Victor Sewer Marine Facility,
Okay.
okay?
Okay, thanks.
That was some suggestions.
We appreciate the concerns. And like I said to folks, what we're doing is having public discourse. That's what we're doing. The law demands that we do this. We're having a public discussion. We'll take what you're telling us under consideration. We'll get back with our staff, and then ultimately our governing body will make a final decision as to what they think we should be doing. Anybody else have a question?
Please state your name for the record.
Hi, good evening. Jed John Hope. Thank you for the very thorough presentation. I want to say good evening to everybody, and just thanks for staying involved in the community. Question, were these projections and all the finances, I know you have a marine consultant, did you plan these new tariffs or rates with a consultant, or did you do that in-house?
Both, because just like I said earlier on, the Port Authority operates every 5 years. We bring on a consultant for marine. We must do that. Even for when we get in this federal grant that we talk about, it must be some other independent institution doing some of the work. So these rates were there discussed and so forth, done with the consultants certainly.
And I know that the folks in St. John feel that they overwhelmingly bear the burden. What would you say to that?
Well, what I'll say to that is we are very considerate in what has transpired. Probably there's a reason why for 19 years no fees had moved, or these fees had not moved for 19 years. And just like several of them have said, that the cost of living and the cost of operation continue to go up. And just like last night I said, the Port Authority last year, just like you and your household faces your WIPA bill, we face it at the port too. So our operation costs continue to escalate. We paid over $5 million in WIPA bills last year. We in excess of $6 million this year. That's what I'll say.
And I guess we can all balance the need for generating more revenue because costs are going up every year. Another question. I know that last year there was a $7 million windfall. What caused that, and do you expect that to continue as you go forward?
No,
It was a swing. I think it was projected to be a negative $1.1 million loss, and it ended up at a $6 million surplus.
It wasn't last year. It was at the end of July this year.
Okay. So,
Yeah. So it's just based on our collections for that period and our expenses. It's not an overall figure. It's just at that reporting period in time.
correct, but that's about a $7 million swing, right? So obviously the projections were.
Well, we had a good cruise year.
Okay.
We had a good cruise year. So
Much
that,
better than expected.
Much better than expected. So that would play a big role in those revenues.
Okay, and I guess tied to this question is, how does the upcoming P3 with Sky City affect the finances?
That's still to be determined. We're still in negotiations, and that will not. We will not know until it's concluded. So the revenues and our expenses are we don't spend what we don't earn. We spend what we earn. So once the conclusion of those negotiations are completed, then we would reassess our operations, and then we will know, have a better outlook as to how we would, our future would look at the port.
All right, well, I guess I'll stop there, but what I'll say is I think the public is asking for more information because, you know, obviously you can look back once you collect the money and assess how you did, but projections help us in business, plan for the future. So there are a ton of projections that I've seen. I think you projected an extra $5 million in the next fiscal year. The public wants a little bit more insight on how those projections were put together.
One of the things I want to make sure we clear about too, while we talk about the $7 million in profit, remember, the reporting period that was referenced was July. So we still have a few months. And I certainly will end up with some kind of profit. But I don't want us to be fixated that it's going to be $7 million. But part of what would have happened during that time too is our capital program. What we would have expended. Some of these projects that we probably should have done or need to happen, whether we didn't do it, they were in design. So we just, so revenues that we probably would have put out to some of the major projects didn't happen. So that's part of what you would be seeing there.
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, so, that's the type of stuff that the public is asking for more insight on. And if you can help us by peeling back that onion, it would be helpful.
Yeah, I mean, we continue to engage. Our offices are open. If you want to come and have a deeper discussion, I don't know. But we've been transparent. We show you exactly how and where our monies come from. So, but we could have a discussion. We're fine.
All right, and one part in thought. Thank you for your time. But I will say, I know we're one Virgin Islands. I really would like to see air conditioning in the baggage claim area in the St. Croix airport because we hot. And well, I know in St. Thomas I got AAC, so I travel through St. Thomas a lot. I really want us to be one Virgin Islands from an air conditioning perspective. Thank you.
I really appreciate you, and guess what? I will guarantee you didn't travel through King Airport the last few weeks because we I'm glad you went there. I'm here all the time, so I know, but hear what has happened. And this is serious. The same impact that we receive in our household when VIPA go out, we've been changing boards that burn out at the airport. Board after board engineers could tell you. You understand? We have generation capacity down there, but sometimes it bypasses our system, what have you. I know electrician, but we've been changing boards. And the thing about it, right now at King Airport for over 3 weeks, it's fans and all this kind of stuff. So we are one Virgin Islands. And if we wasn't one Virgin Islands, I think I alluded to some numbers for you, which is you get 200,000 passengers in St. Croix, 900,000 passengers over there. And so we spend money all the time because we are one port collectively. So if we were taken that way, then a lot of things would just be short-circuited. Yeah. Okay. I got you loud and clear. Next time, pass to stop for fun. Anyhow, please, I really appreciate your thoughts. Next.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Mike Simpson. Thank you, Director Dow, for letting us have this public forum and addressing the dockage fees. Regarding the proposed fees, dockage fees of 150%, the annual budget for the company I work for has already been set. This will add up to $3,000 per month for the vessel that I operate. The company I work for is family-owned and has supported the Frederiksted community for the past 10 years. The other marine operations are also small businesses. An exorbitant increase like this could drive us away from Frederiksted. In doing so, this not only affects our staff who lives in and around Frederiksted, but also the bars, restaurants, and shops who all benefit from our operation, jobs and commerce, as you mentioned. Increase in fees has severe tax implications for the upcoming year, again, not factored into the budgets. And then their cruise ship charter contracts are signed for 2 years. In fact, our contracts were just renewed this past month. We cannot compensate with adjusting cruise ship rates for the additional hardship of increased fees. And our 2025 and 26 public and private charter rates have already been set and published. We would be able to keep all of these extra, if we're able to keep all these extra ships, but we don't have charter excursions, what happens to them? VIPA Sea Assessments currently rate the Aberson Marine Facility Pier as poor. There has been no lighting in the courtyard since 2017, and this poses a security issue. There's no accessible water for commercial use, no open restrooms for the public other than cruise ship days. Certain facilities on St. Thomas and St. John have them open during business hours. And then there are not enough bollards for existing marine-related businesses and a pilot boat to all tie up, especially on cruise ship days. We've been told they've been ready in 3 months, 6 months, next year. VIPA staff says they are waiting on local welders. It was this company who cut the remaining damaged bollards away at the beginning of this summer. This has created congestion on the pier, especially on cruise ship days. Would like to know the status of that. For the Abramson Marine facility, I propose a dockage fee of $1.25 for the 25-26 season. This fee can then be increased in the following years incrementally and sensibly to allow businesses to adjust their businesses in kind. The marine-related businesses of Frederiksted all deliver superior tourism products to cruise ship passengers, tourists on island, and of course our locals. Frederiksted and the pier is a unique situation, unlike any other islands and the VIPA facilities. This fee would put a knife into the very heart of those operations. I understand the seaport facilities are where you make your living. It's also where we do too.
Thank you for your observation, discussion, and I start to go to the area that you spoke about, for example, no bathroom facilities, no lights and all and this kind of stuff, right? And so all of these things have cost too. The lighting, all these things you mentioned, well, maybe you need this and, you know, we should. The bollards, they don't come cheap, they don't come easy. We just basically completed the tender pair where the tours can leave from. And I suspect you do quite a bit of business with the cruise lines. That's what you said, right?
That is correct.
With Royal Caribbean, correct?
All of the cruise ships.
Okay, all of them. What, in St. Thomas too?
No, sir. No, sir. Just Frederiksted Pier.
Well, I mean, Carnival and Virgin Voyage, they come, okay, fine. All the cruise ships, no problem. But my point though is, you see the same discussion you're telling me that your ship, you done set for years? And I understand that because we deal with the cruise ships every day. And when we talk about dealing with these fees with the cruise company, that's always the biggest concern that, hey, you know, it's already set, this stuff every set. So you got to wait another year if you want to do this. And we have said to them, yeah, because what you said is well, what your margin of profit is going to be. And we understand, it's business. But at the same time, we can't continue to neglect these facilities and the needs of the public. And so I like the fact that, if I understood you correctly, you're indicating that we should go raise it by 25 cents. That's what you said?
Yes, sir. I would think that would be reasonable.
Okay.
Essentially a 25% increase as opposed to a 150% increase.
And let me just go further. You know, last night we had the major ferry operators, which goes to the BVI, they do the water tours, the same thing you do, the contracts with the cruise ships and on and on. And they too said that they thought going to $1 was really high and exorbitant. But 3 of them in unison say, you know what, Port Authority, we're willing to consider, we're willing to support 50 cents. That's what they told us. 3 of them. That's the 3 biggest we have operating. And so your 125, their 50 cents, we will take all of that into consideration. We'll talk among ourselves. I just want everybody to continue to recognize that this is no done deal. And I say that because there's like, hey, I'm going to do what I want anyhow. No, it's not. The reason we come to you, the public, is so we could get real discourse, but we have to also give you our point of view, which is some of the things that you listed yourself that needs to happen. As a part of the $5 that Royal Caribbean doing is up of the dock itself. We don't own the property of the dock. Royal Caribbean, the central government now have put up some money so that there could be improvement now when you come off the dock, some walkways and so forth. I myself was going on towards the beach and the sidewalk there is kind of challenging, to say the least. So I respect what you said. We appreciate it. I'll look into the bollards. What fiscal year you work with for your business?
We operate from November through August.
Okay, thanks. But I'll look into that stuff with the bollards and whatever discussion. But I tell people all the time, if there's a challenge, at the end of the day, I take full responsibility for what happened. I'm not passing a buck. you could get hold of me, and I will definitely look in to see what those challenges might be, and we'll try to address them, providing that we can. So I really thank you for your participation.
I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
And I would hope that you appreciate what the authority has been doing in bringing from 40,000 to 240,000 now, that you're able to have this kind of arrangement and traffic. Yes.
Hey, good night. Thank you for being here. My name is Sean Arnold. We run out of Frederiksted. The Frederiksted Pier has 3 companies that use the pier regularly. We're one of them. We run 6-pack operations, which means that we do not take more than 6 passengers on our boats. We've had 2 boats that regularly run year-round. The only day that we're closed is pretty much parade day for Carnival, basically because Frederiksted is shut down. We don't have access to it. So with the dollar per foot that we have, that's $26 per day per boat. Running 365 days a year, it's 364 with the parade closed. That's $9,490 per boat per year. With the increase, that will now be $23,725 per boat. At great cost to us, we just purchased a new boat to try to run and bring more tourism to Frederiksted. So with the additional boat added at $24,000 per boat, we're looking at over $70,000 per year with your increases. With taking 6 passengers out at a single time, that's not businessly feasible. The dollar per foot is actually not even feasible. So increasing that by an additional 150% is going to be too much for us. I'm not exactly sure how we're expected to run and do that. As mentioned before, the dockage only has spots for 2 boats right now. Basically, one of the bollards has been missing for almost a year. With the new pier getting created, the South Shore dock that we've been expecting since 2014, finally being finished but still not open. They were able to install cleats at that dock in one day. They couldn't put a cleat on the regular dock that we've been trying to use that I've brought up multiple times. We have no amenities, no water, no security, no bathrooms, no trash pickup. The dinghies come in and tie off in the middle of the pier on cruise ship day, making docking impossible. We have to go contact Port Authority, get the dock manager, come and get the dinghies moved. I'm just curious how we're supposed to operate doing this. Thank you again for your time. Appreciate it.
So I hear a lot of what you just said, but what are you suggesting with a docking fee? What are you suggesting?
I'm just wondering what we're paying for the docking fee. We're using a pier that we don't. What are we actually getting for it?
I don't know.
We had 40 foot of dockage and a shop in Salt River that cost us less than $500 a month. We're paying over $7,000 a year for this right now. I mean, we're writing checks, and I'm just curious where the money's going.
Well, whether you agree or disagree, and we're here to agree to disagree.
No, I appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Yeah, so but I'm saying I think we illustrated just some of the projects that we want to do. And clearly, you talk about the tourism industry, correct?
Correct.
So we're telling you what we're doing to enhance the product and bring more people so that you could have more passengers to move around as well. So what I'm asking you, the gentleman list off his list of problem that we have, and all these things you come. For example, no security down there, right? No security, no lighting, no water. That's okay. Even if I'm taking what you're saying for granted, none of this, none of that. But these things have to be paid for. Remember, I told you from the beginning, Royal Caribbean and all the vessels that came to St. Croix for 25 years was coming here for free. And it means then that the same dock, the same harbor pilots, we have boats too. You know, sometimes they're in bad condition. We're now slated to buy 2 new pilot boats. And you in the boat industry, you know how these things could cost. But my point only being that with all of what has to happen, and you ask me what you're getting for it, but you're operating from our dock, correct?
Correct.
So, I mean, it's not that from our pier.
Yeah.
Correct. So the pier, where you need work, our marine system need work, all of us that use our facility. And so I'm just asking, I heard the gentleman, he says, this is what I'm willing to do. What are you willing to do?
I'm just curious how an operator that runs a six-pack, so 6 people on the boat at a single time, so going from $26 to $65 per docking, we run quite often with just 2 passengers, which is break even.
Let me ask you this.
Now I'm being asked basically not to run the boat, which is going to cost you guys money because the boat's not touching the dock, and it's going to cost me money and work and my staff.
So we'll find a way to work this out.
I would love to work this out.
So
is
what I'm
talking
at, how much time do you move down there a day?
How many times?
How many movements you have in a daytime with the 6 people? I mean 6 people. How many times do you move the boat?
Generally, the boat's on the dock in the morning. We load up, we take off. The boat can be on the dock anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour.
No, how many movement? How many trips you make?
1.
Oh, 1 trip? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. But I'm still asking you, I heard the gentleman say, I told you what the ferries folks saying in St. Thomas. So, am I getting from you that leave it right where it is? That's what you're telling us?
I would prefer that, yeah.
No, I ain't asking from all of what we discussed. Let's be.
So everything that we discussed, the slide that we spent the least amount of time on was this price increase, and it's the largest price increase out of any of them. Things have gone up $1, things have gone up 25%. This is going up 150%. So this is the one that affects me the most. So this is why I wanted to have a conversation with you.
And that's I'm asking you still. I ain't leaving this point. I'm still asking you, and help me. We want to help each other. I'm asking you, what are you willing to pay? That's what I'm asking you. What are you willing to pay?
I would love to leave it where it's at, and I would agree with Mike on the going up to 125. But I think anything more than that's going to be asking a lot.
Okay, and again, we'll take that into consideration. But I
appreciate it.
I thank you for the discourse, sincerely. I really appreciate it. But I want all of us to continue to bear in mind, our marine facilities is one entity, and all of us must be in this together. And we know that we have, last night, the lady said it herself. For what we're anticipating in the cruise industry, and even in St. Croix, you guys know that you were really 40,000 passengers. That's what was happening here. We are 240 plus, and we expect that to continue to grow. So it's been helpful. It's been helpful. No 2 ways about it. However, in St. Thomas last night, the one lady, one of the boat owners, she indicated that she's buying a new vessel. It's being produced now. Spending $4.3 million to bring this vessel to St. Thomas. I asked her, you're not buying a vessel for $4.3 million not to make a profit or not to be able, you see some future and some growth, why you're going to do that. So the point is, we're going to make sure that we're able to accommodate the vessel that this lady is purchasing, and your vessels as well we have to do a better job as to the cliques, the bollards. We want to do a better job, the restroom facilities and so forth. We will do a better job at that. But at the same time, all of us have to make up our mind that we've got to participate in these production. All right, so I really appreciate the discourse, and we'll go take it under advisement as well. Anybody else?
Yes, sir. Good evening. My name is Michael Petey. I'm here on behalf of the QE4 Ferry. I would like the Port Authority to be aware of the downstream effects of these dockage fees. And you speak of profit. I will tell you where the ferry operates, and it hopes to get to a break even on an annual basis. These dock proposals will completely prevent us from doing so. From a dollar perspective, that moves our Port Authority dockage fees from $60,000 a year to $160,000 a year. If we want to go by Port Authority's economic importance, certainly we help tourism. It's only 10 or 15% of our business, trade and commerce. We move small things like auto parts, like sports equipment. There's not money in it, but it really helps the community, and that's the point of why we're here. Jobs and revenue. Certainly, we pay taxes, employ people, but from a regional, global connectivity, but most importantly, a local connectivity. We are the only ones offering this low price point for Virgin Islanders, And with these proposed rate increases, it's going straight to the ticket price, which only will have an impact on our ridership, to which then we have to increase the prices further, and it's incredibly unsustainable for us. If you're asking for a proposal, we pay dockage on both islands each day. The dockage is generally based on 24 hours worth of usage. We're certainly not in two places at once. If there could be a resolution to that we pay at once, we would be amendable to that. But this has extreme effects for our community, and particularly those who don't know whether there's air conditioning at the baggage claim here at the airport.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll take your suggestion and the communication you just imparted to us and advisement. And let me just say that your representative in St. Thomas did an awesome job in bringing up the same issue. She indicated that she represents you on the St. Thomas end. That's Ms. Smith.
Correct.
And that, and so she brought up the issues there, and we told her we would look at that specific situation because of the services provided, but we'll see overall. So she did brought it up, and we appreciate you being here.
Great, thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else?
Hello, good evening. My name is Jekyll Jacobs. I just recently moved to St. Croix a couple of months ago, but I'm from St. John. So I just want to ask a question that was promised to the St. Johnians on Tuesday that signed a paper. I think it was like 50 plus that you would have a meeting with them on Thursday, but you canceled it. I would like to know the reason why.
Yeah, we've been to every place. The reason why, we had a meeting in St. John and it was kind of overflow situation. And we said that we'll do either Thursday or Friday a meeting in St. John. Except that we stayed there till closer to 10 o'clock the night. And as people left, people came in. Some people were outside, said we came from outside and we want to ask the question. We stayed there and allowed them to ask the question. Moreover, in St. Thomas last night, there were several St. Johnians who came to the meeting last night and asked questions. But there's still the opportunity, which means you could go online, submit the questions, Ms. Monifa Marrero would get them, and we'll respond to folks. That's why. Thank you for the concern.
Just for the record, we have several St. Johnians joining us tonight via Zoom.
Sorry, go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Uniqua Malone. I live here in St. Croix. However, I traverse between St. Thomas and St. John yearly on about maybe 6, 7, sometimes 10 trips a year. Point in case for family, business, and for pleasure and leisure. Normally, I go with my family. My family can range between 2, 3, 4, 5 individuals. I noticed the barge ramp, the slip fee and all those stuff. Yes, you have repairs to do on it. You have, the vehicles coming back and forth. However, the proposed fees that you are proposing is doubling and adding $10 extra for certain vehicles. And when I'm in St. John, the cost of living is high. I spend almost a week, 2 weeks over there. And the amount of money I spend in 1 week over there is what I spend in 2 weeks over here in St. Croix. My family owns businesses in St. John as well. I live in St. John practically, again, maybe 2, 3 months out of the year sometimes. However, if you increase these badge fees for the slip, for the vehicles, and then also wanting to put the $2 per person after the third person basically that's over the age of 12. Do y'all realize what the businesses in St. John are gonna do when the merchant markets bring their produces over to St. John to provide services, or the hardware store, which is extremely expensive over there, when they have to bring their trailers over and their excess fees? The local businesses in St. John that provide services to the individuals, when they have to traverse between St. Thomas and St. John to carry product, especially the garbage truck individuals that have their trucks bringing over the 30-yard bins and whatnot. Those are extra fees that they have to tack on to their normal fees that they're charging their tenants and their individuals that are using their services. Now, when their prices go up and the individuals decide that they no longer want to provide or receive that service from that individual's company now is at a loss. And they can't make up that money nowhere else because no one is going to pay that fee. Right now, the fee is already high. That's just for the local businesses. If you go over there and you look at the gas rate, you're proposing to add $10 more on. So it's what, $30 or $40, I'm not too sure, that you're proposing to make the fee right now. The gas rate in St. John, Jakil, if I'm wrong, 5 and change? It's currently 5 and change. In St. Croix, our gas rate is at 4 and change. So if the gas rate is at 5 and change and you're proposing to add that extra $10, their gas rate is going to go up. They can't operate. They have 3 gas stations in St. John. They cannot operate at a higher cost at that. Then they're going to have to go back to horse and mule. That's the best way to traverse over there where it's more economical for them. There's plenty bush to eat. The donkeys and horses can eat. However, there's no gas station in Coral Bay. So by the time you traverse between Coral Bay and Cruz Bay, and then you still have to catch that badge, go all the way to St. Thomas, and then still have to pay the excess fees that you're adding on to get back home, and then still have to travel back to St. John, the gas price alone is going to suffer. Those individuals are going to suffer because of that gas price. Not to mention the shopping. They don't have a supermarket over there. They have convenience stores. Their supermarkets are located in St. Thomas. I personally travel to St. Thomas on multiple occasions when I'm on vacation or just in St. John, and I have to do a whole family shopping. And by the time I'm done with the family shopping, I still have to pay for gas to get back over to St. John. I still have to pay for gas when I reach to St. John, especially if I'm going Coral Bay to drop off groceries. How does that impact the entirety of St. John with all these fees that you propose? How is that going to be impactful for them? Their pockets are going to suffer. I know you did studies, you had individuals come in and look at the markups are high. We're not saying that you can't increase the fees, but the markup is extremely high. Now, you can ask me what I can propose the fees are. I can't propose that. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm looking at it at a residential factor. Okay? The facilities that I utilize when I go over there, St. John in particular, especially to Cruz Bay, when I have to take the ferry, the passenger boat, I'm kind of, this is a question now. In 2017, when we had the hurricanes, did y'all receive FEMA funding? And if yes, because majority of everyone received FEMA fundings for the hurricane damages, I would want to expect that some of those fees would have gone to the infrastructure of the dock itself. Those little boat tenders, I know they were destroyed during the Irma Maria hurricane. I know that. However, However, if you just do a simple fix to the solution and not a permanent fix or a fix that's going to last over 20 years, and now you're looking for the money to help fix those fixes that you put in temporarily, that's not supposed to come from the public. Make that fix a fix that's going to last, not one that's going to be incompatible in a couple of years. It's going to be 10 years in 2 years now. 2 years. It's going to be 10 years since those hurricanes. And trust and believe, I go down Cruz Bay almost every day. That senior citizens are waiting to catch the boat. The school children are waiting to catch the boat. All of them can't fit in front of that area in the morning time. When rain comes, where are they supposed to go? You have that place cordoned off because they can't use it because you said the infrastructure is not good. If that is the case, where was the money then from FEMA to fix those structures? Then the Cruz Bay parking lot in front of the post office. When my family goes to pick up mail, they have over an hour wait. I understand some individuals propose that you move it from a half hour to an hour. Yes. However, when you look at that versus the gravel lot, and I pass the gravel lot a lot as well, Those vehicles are there. Every time I go over there, it's the same vehicles in the same exact spot. They're just paying for rent in that particular area. The video surfaced today, I don't know if y'all saw it. The road is horrible, flooding. You can't pass through. It's a one-way going down, but that is the only double way to get back out from. If you're coming from Starfish area, that is the only double way to get back into town. When vehicle gets stuck there because they're too low, yes, people like low riders. It's not a problem, it's their choice. However, the road is also bad. VIPA have nothing to do with that road. I understand that. But those are factors that the individuals in St. John have to take into perspective. Because the fees that you're going to impose versus the fees that they have to pay for everything else, it's a lot.
Thank you for your comments. What I'll respond to, for the record, is the Virgin Islands Port Authority did not receive any FEMA funding. The Virgin Islands Port Authority did not receive any HUD funding, like all this capital stuff going around for schools, hospital. Did not. The Virgin Islands Port Authority stands on its own 2 feet. So after the hurricanes, whatever was rebuilt by the Virgin Islands Port Authority.
And why didn't you receive any FEMA funding? I'm kind of taken back at that, being that it was a hurricane that passed 2 of them. Why weren't the VIPA in receivance of FEMA help?
The reason we was not is because we did the proper thing. We prepared. So the Virgin Islands Port Authority had insurance, and just like a cost of doing business, we keep insurance. We keep pretty good insurance. It costs us a pretty penny, but that's why the container port that you saw, the picture that you saw with the big 40,000 feet square building down at the container port, that was demolished, basically, mashed up during the hurricane. We didn't wait for FEMA. We didn't wait for nobody. No HUD, nobody. The Port Authority rebuilt that building.
Okay, so where you could have gotten help from FEMA to rebuild that building, you refused the help to do it on your own. And the other thing is, if you got the insurance money was used to cover the damages from the hurricane, correct?
That's correct.
So if the damages from the hurricane, if they were used for that, how were they used that you now have to go back and fix what you fixed?
Okay, thank you for the question. Let me forget it. Thanks for your question and so forth. And once again, for the public, not for all of us in here, but for the public, just want to make sure we understand that the Port Authority must carry insurance, have insurance. We receive damages, we fix the properties, and just so people understand how FEMA works, if in fact you have insurance to do for your property, and your insurance can do the job to rebuild your property, FEMA or anyone, you will not get no money from FEMA, providing you have to exhaust your insurance funding first, just for the record. Next.
Good night. My name is Farrell, a small business operator, Water Spirit. In business, you have to increase. I'm not going to tell you no, but 150% is a little bit much. So whatever you guys could adjust to get it a little lower will be appreciated by me. But I know Port Authority cannot continue without an increase. And those increases, 19 years and whatever years, I think is a while. But whatever you guys could do to drop it down, I would say 40%, 30%, but whatever you guys could do, I'd appreciate it, okay?
Thank you, Mr. Farrell. Thanks a lot. Anybody else? Anybody else?
Going once, going twice.
What I want to take a minute out, though they didn't ask, but I want to recognize Tim Kirk of Crowley. We've had several meetings here and in Jacksonville. That's one of the people that's primarily involved in whatever Crowley does, and I want to publicly thank Tim. The other folks from Tropical left, which Nisha, O'Bain, and all these folks that run tropical shipping. So I just thank them for the partnership in helping us to do several of these things that we're doing. And when we talk about the cruise ships as well, sometimes, and one of the big part of business that we're looking closely at, there was a time when most of the cruise ship was provisioning in the territory. They'll take on, containers would come in, and they take on food and supplies here, and then they move on to other islands. But I really want to thank you personally, Tim Kirk, for what you had meant for the Port Authority and the growth that you're now establishing in St. Croix with new offices, new land spacing, and so forth. So thanks for coming, Tim. Thank you. Okay. Sorry, moving forward. Let me, sorry, let me recognize Mr. Shamari Haynes from the Virginia Department of Tourism. Thanks for coming. At this point, I did recognize the board member, Mr. Willard John. I thank each and every one of you. What I don't want, when you leave here, just know that whatever you said tonight, we will take into consideration and determine what the outcome will be. So nobody, whatever your comment was, whether we agree or disagree, it was not in any form or fashion that we're going to ignore what you said. You have one more question? Let me just quickly say, I don't know whether you came in late, but I said from the outset that these are proposed fees. I also said that we have a January 26th date that we certainly don't expect to meet because of other things internally. I said that at the outset. So we expect to give people what we consider to be reasonable and ample time so that whatever we're trying to do would be instituted. What that time is, I could only make a proposal to our governing body. We'll have a discussion, the staff and I, taking into consideration all the discussion that we have heard on all three islands. The law requires us to do exactly that and get the public feedback. And then the law says, after the feedback, and not this part isn't in the law, but the staff would have a discussion, and I'll listen to my staff, I'll listen to the comments that everyone made, and we'll come up with a proposal that we would forward on to our governing body. Our governing body meets normally the third Thursday of every month, and even if it moves, which this one probably will, our public relations office, you go on our website, all our meetings are public, and all our meetings are advertised prior to the meeting. And what staff I have in there? The officers, help me. So all these folks that's in here tonight, they'll just allow them to go through the parking lot. Okay, so all the folks that's here tonight who attended the meeting, let them exit the parking lot without a cost, without a charge. Thank you. Anything else? So I want to thank, again, each and every one of you for your participation. And I just want to emphasize what these were proposals to harness discussion and get feedback from the public at large. And from time to time, we agree to, in fact, disagree.
Yes, we have a request online. They wanted to know the email address where they can submit comments. That email address is info@viport.com. Again, info@viport.com.
Thank you. Try to have a good night. Be safe.